We are joined in the studio this evening with James Crane, the Community Warden for Leysdown and Warden Bay here on the Isle of Sheppey. James, are the rules regarding markings on the road and relating to parking, that kind of thing?
Right, yeah. In this country, I think it's important to start with saying that the authorities take the view that it's better to point out the areas where it would be unsafe to park rather than where it is safe. The obvious exception to this is where they designate a curbside area as a car park. It's usually with meters, but not always so. As for the actual markers themselves, yellow lines are used to indicate parking restrictions, and they should always be observed. Far too often drivers think that it won't matter if they just stop here for a little while, or they can't be bothered to find a different parking area, especially if that involves a longer walk to the shop or the place they wish to visit. It always strikes me as amusing that when I visit the car park of a nearby superstore and find the drivers queuing to park outside the doors rather than park a little further away and take a 50-yard walk through the car park to enter. As for the restrictions on roadside parking, they are, as I've said, communicated by drivers by lining the roads with yellow lines. So if double yellow lines are laid down, it means that you may never park there. A single yellow line is used and says that you will not be permitted to park there during the working day. This normally means between 8 and half 5. That's Monday to Friday, but the exact time of the restrictions will be posted on a sign but on the side of the road. If a single broken line is used, then there will be a restriction on parking, but the restriction will be less than the working day. Exact times will be listed once again on a nearby notice. This type of parking restriction is usually in busy shopping areas to limit parking to, say, maximum period of 2 hours at any time. You might not actually be allowed to return to the area within 2 hours of moving away either. Another use of this type of restriction is in the vicinity of a railway or bus station, where a restriction on parking between, as I say for argument's sake, between 8 and 10. That would prevent parking by commuters who would otherwise congest the area all day with their cars to the detriment of residents. Additional restrictions are sometimes laid down regarding loading and unloading of vehicles in shopping areas. These yellow lines are marked across curbstones at 90 degrees to the road. 3 yellow stripes restrict loading and unloading at any time. 2 stripes allow it, but only outside the working day. And 1 stripe permits loading and unloading during the workday, but for short periods only. Generally, motorists should also be aware that they can only park in a road with the goodwill of the police, and any parking would actually involve obstructing the road. The police do not generally object to parking in a road, provided that the vehicles are parked close to the curb and pointing in the direction of travel for that side of road. They don't like cars pointing the wrong way, as in you're driving on one side of the road, you see a parking space on the other and pull over. They don't like you doing it, but again, you generally can get away with it. It's mostly because it causes confusion at night when there's restricted visibility. Neither do the police favour parking of cars with 2 wheels on the curb, although this does find favour with the motorist, as if it is necessary to park on the pavement, the motorist is actually acknowledging that the road is not wide enough to park safely in the first place. Motorists should also avoid parking opposite road junctions or on the same side of the road if it's within 15 metres of a junction. Cars may park on a road without displaying parking lights only if the area is subject to a 20 or 30 mile/h speed limit. All other on-street parking requires the driver to display a parking light. And finally, drivers who display a blue disabled driver badge are often given exemption from parking restrictions and sometimes pay and display parking charges. But this isn't always the case. Exact details on their provisions are available on car park notices, etc. Also, disabled drivers can also find out the information for their parking actually on the literature that comes with their blue badge. This will give them exact markings of where they can and can't park.
James, what advice do you have for our listeners on home security?
Right, yeah, home security is a major thing coming up at the moment. Obviously, with the decent weather, summer's approaching us, people going abroad or even staying in this country. Probably might be easier to stay in this country with the ash cloud that's overhead at the moment. But anyway, if you're going away for a long weekend or something, it's important to take note that burglars and other crooks take special notice of houses that appear to be empty. Effort should therefore be spent in making an empty house appear to be occupied. That's in an attempt to deter burglars while you're away. Obvious security measures, regardless of the length of time you're away from home, is to ensure that all doors have 5-lever mortise locks fitted. In addition to night latches, this could even just be a Yale lock. Windows too should also be closed and locked. Devices to lock windows can be bought quite inexpensively and are often sufficient to deter a would-be burglar. Double glazed windows are usually manufactured with locking devices fitted, and to use these devices and keep the keys etc. handy but out of sight from the window. An obvious precaution is to ensure that milk and paper orders are cancelled during a holiday, as accumulations of uncollected papers and milk are a sure sign of inactivity. Also, it's also handy to be aware that mail or parcels might sometimes be left on show in porches or by the doors, and this can give burglars further clues. So insist that your post is always pushed right through your letterbox, and use the services of your guardian neighbour to remove any parcels left in porches until you return home, and this will also give you a chance to collect them. This can also apply to the delivery of free newspapers, where all too often they are delivered unsolicited and left on show in porches or hanging out of letterboxes. And such sloppy work by delivery people should not happen, in my opinion. Delivery agents should be trained to push every item right through the letterboxes without fail, but all too often this is not done, and the risk of burglary increases as a result. Very often, a neighbour or nearby friend will agree to visit your house on a daily basis during your absence, and when they do this, they can draw the curtains across windows at night and open them again in the morning. Another tactic might be to allow your neighbour to park a car on your driveway overnight during your absence. Most people have more than one car nowadays, and this can therefore be considered. Lights are another thing, especially standard lamps and table lights. They can easily be operated in your absence by time switches, thus making it appear that someone is at home when in fact they're not. The same device can be used to switch radios on and off, and this will also give the impression that someone is at home. Another thing which I'm able to do for persons which are over 60 is what's known as a handy van reference. The handy van is a free service offered through Kent County Council to anyone over the age of 60, and they will come round free of charge and fit all kinds of safety devices, whether this be new door locks, new window locks, smoke alarms, and also what we call a community link alarm, which at the press of a button puts you straight through to a centre where people are there to give you immediate assistance, and if need be, call the police.
We are joined with James Crane here at the Monday Night Community Show this evening.